Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the March Citywide Council on Special Education's meeting. It is Thursday, March 26th, 6:32 p.m. We'll get started. First, interpreters, can you please introduce yourself and your services? Mandarin, could you please start? Thank you.
Hello, the following is in Mandarin. 今天我们的会议有提供国语的翻译服务，请你拨打347-966-4114，ID 是172-270-423，井号。重复一次，今天的会议有提供国语翻译的服务，请你拨打热线347-966-4114，ID 号码是172-270-423，井号。Mandarin announcement finished. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And can you please put the information in the chat box for everybody? Thank you. And Spanish, please. Spanish interpreters.
Buenas tardes a todos. Si quieren escuchar esta reunión en español, les pedimos por favor que llamen desde sus celulares al número 347-966-4114 e ingrese el código de conferencia 110-03590 seguida del símbolo de numeral. De nuevo, el número de teléfono para llamar es 347-966-4114 y marque el número de conferencia 110-03590 seguida del símbolo de numeral. Esta información también estará en el chat y le pedimos a todos, por favor, que apaguen sus micrófonos para no interferir con el audio. Muchas gracias, que disfruten. And the Spanish announcement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, can you please put the information in the chat box so our viewers can access it? Okay, next roll call. Roll call, please.
Good evening, everyone. Francesca is excused for this evening. Dr. Sanai? Cindy Chen?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cindy Chen. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Joan Cummins?
Present.
Heather Daly?
Here.
Mark Gonzalez?
Present.
Ron?
Present.
Maggie is on her way in.
Security right now, getting through.
Susie? Have we heard from Susie? And Irene?
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And you did hear from our newest member, Cindy Chen. Cindy, welcome to the council. Pleasure to have you on, and thank you for representing our community. All right, and Cindy, one thing to keep in mind when you do talk, make sure you hold down the button on the, yep, great, thank you. All right, so timekeeping, I'm going to use the phone. I apologize. I left the other device at home on the charger. So my apologies, but we'll keep time using the timer here. So my deepest apologies, but we'll manage. Next up, we've got a presentation. We've got some representatives, a lot of representatives here, and thank you. It's the English Language Development ELD curriculum pilot. It's with the Office of Multilanguage Learners. They are part of DIAL, as is the Office of Special Education. So it's one of the nice things in the DIAL umbrella is it spans both the multilanguage learners and the Office of Special Education. There is so much crossover and tie-in with those two communities. They are not individuals. There's a lot of blend between the two, so it's a really good organization, and it leads to a lot of collaborative work between the two groups. So we are honored to have both groups here, but really focused on the multilanguage learner group. First, we're going to have Chief Sanchez from the Office of Special Education talk, and then we'll pass it on to the other teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, CCSE, for having us again tonight and for inviting our partners in the Office of Multilanguage Learners. We are very excited for this presentation this evening. Two very quick updates just to share. This past Tuesday on the Beyond Access series, the topic was summer opportunities for students with disabilities. And if you were not able to log in this past Tuesday, please know that you can view the information on the Beyond Access YouTube page. And then you can always reach out to specialeducation@schools.nyc.gov should you have any questions about summer programming or summer opportunities for students with disabilities. Our next session after the April break will be April 14th, and that will be on MDRs, manifestation determination reviews for students with IEPs who have been suspended, and on the technology platform and resource called Read and Write that we've spoken about here before. So we're going to be doing another session for families on Read and Write on April 14th. And hope to see many of you there. And before I jump in, I want to again thank Maggie, Mark, and the rest of the CCSE for inviting our OML partners tonight. As Mark said, Division of Inclusive and Accessible Learning is one division led by Deputy Chancellor Christina Foti. And in the Division of DIAL are two offices, the Special Education Office, as well as the Office of Multilingual Learners led by Dr. Brenda Garcia. And I'm going to turn over to Dr. Garcia at this time and jump right into the presentation.
I'm going to just get the PowerPoint going because we're going to start with an overview of how we're organized, the Office of Multilingual Learners and the Special Education Office, so that you can understand how we work together.
Can folks see the screen? I'm trying to share on Zoom. I can see the
Is there any
screen.
way for you to make it bigger for the people who are here to be able to? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start off with the Office of Multilingual Learners. That's the office that I lead under the Division of Inclusive and Accessible Learning, led by Deputy Chancellor Christina Foti, who just entered our space. And so, again, echoing what Suzanne said, is our mission is to ensure all students thrive regardless of ability or of language. And there are many places where these two pieces intersect, and that's where we work together. So the Office of Multilingual Learners is composed of 4 teams. One of them is the strategy team. Leads a lot of the work around opening bilingual programs, strategizing expansion of initiatives. Policy and data. English language learner policy is governed by state and federal law, much like special education. And so we have a policy and data team that really leads that work citywide with the field. Our research, instruction, and professional learning team, you're going to be hearing from our director of elementary school ENL, Mark Anderson, in a little bit. He belongs to the research, instruction and professional learning team. And so there are individuals on that team that focus on English as a new language, on bilingual education, on world languages, on heritage language, anything to do with the acquisition of a new language, whether it be English or a language that's a world language to a student. And then finally, our multilingual and immigrant support team, which we call our MISS team. That team works closely on family and community engagement. So really thinking about how we provide workshops that are specific to our communities, our language communities, and our post-secondary readiness. So focused on ensuring that our English language learners and our immigrant students have access equal access, equity, in opportunities like dual enrollment opportunities in high school, and guidance that will lead them to be able to have strong college and career pathways. So that is the overview of Office of Multilingual Learners, and I'm going to pass it really quickly to Suzanne, who's going to provide an overview of the Special Education Office.
Thank you so much, Brenda. And I think that we are all really familiar here with the Special Education Office, fortunately, since we spend a lot of time together. Super quickly, right? We have the Office of Related Services. We have Specialized Instruction Program Development, Special Education Policy and Strategy, Disability Culture and Accessible Learning. Speaking of, really happy to announce here that we are going to be hosting another Inclusion Summit for students by students the end of this school year. So more info on that coming. Obviously, our family support team led by Johanna Rodriguez, who you all know well, and our Office of Supervisors of School Psychologists who lead a lot of our evaluation work. But since we're really familiar with SEO, I wanted to ask Deputy Chancellor Christina Foti just to say a few words since we have her with us here this evening.
Everybody, thank you. I appreciate the brief moment, but I really want to get to the content. For those of you online that I may not know, Christina Foti, Deputy Chancellor overseeing the Division of Inclusive and Accessible Learning. As you just heard from the overview, we are comprised of the Special Education Office, the Office of Multilingual Learners, District 75, the Committees on Special Education, and we also have recently added a Equitable Services Unit for students in parochial and non-public schools. So delighted to be with you all today. This is exactly the kind of work and content we want to be doing with you all. You all are incredibly impactful and helpful to us in shaping policy and practice on this front. And I cannot think of one of a more interesting topic to dive in on. So thank you so much, Brenda and Suzanne, and looking forward to the conversation.
I just want to introduce our student member, Jonah, who is online. I don't think he got a chance to answer a roll call. So just so you all know, our student member is here as well.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Jonah, thanks for being here tonight.
No problem. Sorry.
And so we're going to turn it to Carolina Lidiano, who's going to get us started.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. I'm Carolina Liriano. I am in the Special Education Office, but work very closely with our Office of Multilingual Learners, as I am the Director of Bilingual Special Education Programs in Districts 1 through 32. So before we jump into the topic for today, which is this English Language Development or ELD curriculum pilot, I just wanted to take a moment to first explain a few key terms. We just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page and feels really comfortable and familiar with the language that we're using when we're talking about our multilingual learners and English language learners in New York City public schools. So when we talk about our multilingual learners in New York City public schools, we're talking about a wide range of students. We have some who are brand new to the English language, some who have been learning English for several years. Some may have already reached proficiency. These are our former Ls. And then we have some who are English proficient, but maybe learning a new language through a bilingual program or a world language course. So within that larger group of multilingual learners, and you may have seen this umbrella previously and in previous presentations, the umbrella to the right. So the state identifies a smaller group within that multilingual learner group, and those are our English language learners, our Ls. These are the students who are still developing English language skills. And even within this group of English learners, there's, very different experiences amongst our students. We have newcomers. We have students who are developing English language skills, having received 4 to 6 years of ENL services. We have our long-term Ls who have been receiving ENL services for more than 7 years. We have students with IEPs, and we also have students who may have interrupted or inconsistent formal education. And we share this because not all multilingual learners have the same needs, right? Schools support students differently depending on where they are in that English language learning journey. And so the English language development or ELD curriculum pilot that we'll be focusing on today highlights the needs of those students who are in that newcomer bracket, right? So this is a curriculum specifically for these students that are at the very beginning of that language learning journey because they benefit the most from that protected and explicit instruction where we're teaching them the English language. So we've talked about who our multilingual learners are and our English language learners. Now, what programs and services are they receiving in our schools? We know that these students that have been identified as English language learners are receiving English as a new language. And these are some, things that we want to clarify. ENL is a general education service. It is delivered in English, and it is required under New York State's rules for multilingual learners. You may be familiar with the Commissioner Regulations, Part 154. So when we call ENL a general education service, we mean that ENL is not listed on the IEP. Even for students with disabilities, it's not special education instruction. It's support for English language learners to learn this new language. It never replaces special education services. It's always something that's delivered in addition to whatever is recommended on the IEP. And schools provide ENL in two different ways. We have integrated ENL, and this happens during, regular classroom lessons. Teachers are using supports like pictures, sentence starters, or vocabulary routines so that students can learn English language skills while they're learning that grade level content. And then we also have standalone ENL. This is a small group focused English instruction. It's protected time for those entering and emerging students to build those foundational English language skills. This is part of ENL that the ELD pilot is designed to really make stronger. And so another thing that we want to make sure that we clarify here is that the amount of ENL a student receives is tied to the level of English language proficiency as well as the grade of the student. Now, to the right, we want to also discuss bilingual education programs. So in addition to ENL, some families may opt into a bilingual education program for their child. And in these programs, ENL is built into that model because bilingually certified teachers hold the required credentials in order to be able to provide that service. And so there are two bilingual models, dual language, where students are learning in both English and the home language. And we also have transitional bilingual education programs where students may begin with more of that home language instruction. And then gradually, as the students progress, they are exposed to more and more English until eventually they may enter a monolingual English class. So just to be clear, before we move on to the next slide, these bilingual models exist across settings. So we can have a bilingual general education program as well as a bilingual special education program. And they will each follow one of these two models that I've referenced. So we've discussed who are our multilingual learners and how ENL services work. It's also really helpful to understand how the state determines a student's English language level, because these levels are what drive the amount of ENL instruction that a student receives per week. And I've referenced entering and emerging, so let's see what that means. So every English language learner is placed in one of 5 levels. As you can see here on the screen, we have entering, emerging, transitioning, expanding, and commanding. So this is based on state assessments that look at listening skills, speaking speaking, reading, and writing. And then we get this comprehensive score for the students' performance in each of these areas. And so, for example, and I won't read everything, but a student at the entering level might be using pictures, hand gestures, and single words or short phrases to show what they know. They're really great at matching images to words and following simple directions when someone shows them what to do. And then when you get to the commanding level, you have students who are handling grade level schoolwork, just like a native English speaker. While they might still need to check in for support occasionally, they have those skills necessary to succeed completely on their own and without ENL services. And so those students will no longer, receive that service. So the important connection to today's topic is this. Our entering and emerging students, where I've highlighted in orange, these are the students who are entitled to receive the highest number of ENL minutes under New York State's rules for multilingual learners, or CR Part 154. And these are the only students who receive standalone ENL. These are the students who benefit most from that explicit small group English language development. And historically, standalone ENL did not have a consistent curriculum across our schools. And that's why we're so excited to share with you about the ELD pilot today. This is why it was created, because, it gives teachers those high quality materials and those routines so that we can provide students with the ENL minutes that they're entitled to based on their English language proficiency level. So this slide really helps to anchor us on, who the pilot is designed for and why it's such an important step forward. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Mark, who will be sharing more information about the ELD curriculum pilot, which is our first citywide curriculum designed specifically for standalone ENL time for those entering and emerging students. So Mark Anderson will be taking over.
Thank you so much, Carolina, and thank you so much for framing this so nicely and the why of why we're doing this. So I'm really excited to be able to share with this group an update about the English language development curriculum pilot, which is something new that we've been able to initiate this year to bring attention to the needs of our entering and emerging levels in standalone ENL. And just want to note, all the pictures you see on these slides are real pictures from the pilot. So really, really cool to be able to show you some snapshots of that. And I should also mention my role, my title. I'm the Director of Elementary ELA and ENL with the Office of Multilingual Learners. And the reason why we're doing this is that when you look at the data citywide, this is the most current ELA and math state results. You can see that the good news is that all students are rising as we are in the midst of implementation of New York City Reads and New York City Solves, and that's good news. However, when we look at our current ELs, those students who are currently identified as English language learners, you'll notice that the ELA scores are increasing at a lower rate than students who are not identified as an English language learner. And so there's a lot of need that we can see there in terms of both literacy, especially literacy, and also in math. The flip side of this, on the same slide, if you look in the middle, those are EverLs. EverL means that any student who has once been identified as an English language learner and who has achieved English language proficiency. And if you compare that middle set of columns and their performance to the right, which are never else, meaning that students who have never been identified as an English language learner, you'll notice that they outperform the never else. And so that's an important point because on the one hand, while students who are currently identified as an English language learner have a lot of room for growth and development and a lot of need, we also can see that once they achieve that English language proficiency, they're excelling. And so the question is, how can we accelerate that development as students are beginning their English language development in core content areas? And so that's our task with this English language development pilot. And so if we go to the next slide, our strategy has been, well, recognizing first of all that all students who are identified as an English language learner must receive ENL services. That's English as a new language instruction to support their English language development. And if they are at the beginning stages of English language development, they're going to also receive standalone ENL in addition to integrated ENL services so that they can receive that targeted language development opportunity. So there's a real opportunity here in that we know that for all kids, structured practice in oracy, speaking, and listening is essential for literacy. And so for students who are newly developing a language alongside of literacy and content, that's even more important. And so historically, as Carolina had mentioned, we have not had a consistent high quality set of materials for standalone ENL specifically. And so this fall, what we've been able to do is provide some high quality curriculum for standalone ENL to 80 schools across 8 different districts in the city. That's almost 4,000 English language learners. And that's really allowed us to test out a systemic solution because really, just like with New York City Reads, just like with New York City Solves, the question is if we bring an HQIM or a high quality instructional material set into this space, what can that mean to build around a consistent shared curriculum? And so our vision for this pilot is that for students, we're going to see acceleration in their speaking, reading, and writing skills even more rapidly. We're going to see them achieving that English language proficiency that we were talking about even more rapidly, and that they'll be confident in all their other core classrooms. Because in New York City, one of the unique things about how we serve for multilingual learners is that they are present in all core instruction from the beginning with all their peers. Unlike some other districts where they may be separated into other classes. We don't do that in New York City. We do provide targeted English language development opportunities through ENL and bilingual programs. And for our teachers, our hope is that they're going to have access to high quality, culturally responsive curriculum that they can use to then better target and differentiate to the needs of the students in front of them. Additionally, it's been from the beginning of this, our goal to have family involvement and have family engagement, have resources that we're developing as part of this initiative so that they can also have a deeper understanding of English as a new language instruction and how they can support their student at home. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So in terms of the curriculum that we've been piloting this year, we've been piloting 2 different sets of curricula with 2 very different approaches. We've been piloting HMH, English 3D, and Nat Geo Reach. And we've done that in 4 districts each. And we've been learning a lot from the implementation of each program. And so part of this pilot has been learning from which program could best support the unique needs of our students in standalone ENL. And so I'm happy to be able to announce that at this point in the pilot, we've carefully reviewed both of those programs, including a formal review of the materials themselves in every grade level with, if we can go to the next slide, that included stakeholders from across our offices. So we had representation from SEO, of course, from my office, OML. We also had district leadership and ENL teachers that were a part of the review. We also listened and looked really closely at the feedback, of course, from our district leaders, our school leaders, and our teachers who have been part of this pilot this year. And from the review of all of that information, we've made the determination that Nat Geo Reach is the official core curriculum for standalone ENL for grades K through 5 for the city. Some of the features that we have really noticed in the program and from the feedback around the program has been that it's very content rich and that the academic language is connected to that rich content. It includes foundational literacy components. And as we know, for students who are newly arrived English language learners, they have various needs, and some bring the need for more foundational literacy skill needs in either language, and some bring skills in foundational literacy skills. So we need to be able to differentiate to target those skills. So this program does offer that opportunity to do that. And it needs to be specific to the needs of our entering and emerging levels. And that's what we found with this program. So one of the things we wanted to highlight for you are some of the accessibility features of Nat Geo Reach. They have a digital platform called the Spark platform. It includes approaches to universal design for learning in the design of the platform, as well as some of the print materials. So in the platform itself, they are able to dynamically resize the text. There's audio supports for both the text and the video. There's adjustable playback speeds as well with the videos. It utilizes real world images to help students better understand what they're learning, especially those with any processing delays or hearing impairments. And it also carries a full voluntary product accessibility template and meets for the print materials, the national standards for large print and Braille compatibility. Heather, Spark, it is not an AI platform. This Spark is specific to Cengage Nat Geo. It supports diverse learners in the sense that for the student interaction with the platform, there are ways they can interact directly within the platform. There are drawing and pointing activities. There's also digital drag and drop activities as well. And for all the materials, print and digital, there are words, sentence starters to build students' confidence from the beginning of English language development in order to be able to engage with the content of the sets of materials. So I wanted to show you what that actually looks like so you can see a visual of some of that. One of the rich features of this curriculum is that because it's Nat Geo, it has like really good images, really good visuals, like in everything that it does. And so this is just like a very quick example of some of that. That's abundant throughout the program. There's also the audio support that I mentioned, where you can see that on the next slide, there is always a script that's included with any videos that can be used. There's adjustable speeds for the video and the audio as well. In terms of the drag and drop capabilities, just one other snapshot, just so you can see what that looks like. So for students who need more of that visual engagement with some of the materials, there are options for them to be able to do that within the platform. The other good news too, just before we move on to the pilot itself, is that I would say that, Carolina and I and some other members of our teams spoke with a vendor to learn more about some of these features, and they're very open to us providing feedback, making adaptations, working with their product team based on any feedback. So certainly, like, we welcome you to share any advice or feedback as well for ensuring that we're serving the unique needs of our duly designated children receiving standalone instruction. So let's talk about the pilot itself and what we've been seeing outside of the materials themselves. I'm excited to be able to share again that empowering families, communicating with families has really been a part of this effort from the beginning. Just a reminder, this is a pilot. So we're building a lot of this as we've been trying this out. And so part of this has been developing some of these resources with our team for families, getting all the translations out there. So a couple of resources that I can share right away is we have a public facing website that we had made. I'm going to put that in the chat for you. There's also on that page, you'll find a link to a family guide. And this guide is for families to understand what English language development is about, and to also help frame the understanding that multilingualism is an asset. So when you're looking to develop the English language, speaking to, writing, and reading in your home language at home is going to support that. And so that's part of that guidance as well. And that's available in all the New York City languages as well. We've been providing targeted training. So we have been equipping family-facing staff in districts and in schools with resources and information. We've started some training that was around New York City Reads. We call them New York City Reads ambassadors. I think we've completed all the trainings at this point. And from that, we then invited additionally families from the pilot districts to join additional sessions that are specific to language development alongside of literacy development. And so we're building that out as well. And so we'll have like a great set of trainings and supports for families in the next year. We are also developing toolkits that will be part of, we're looking at the New York City Reads guidance at large for the city and looking at what can we infuse into that is specific to language development that we're learning as part of this focus in the pilot. And finally, we are partnering directly with our CEC representatives as well. So a lot of great work has been happening here that we're really excited about. The other piece I wanted to share with you and highlight is that we have been really developing and planning and now collecting what the impact from the implementation is as part of this pilot. So we're looking at our vendor program usage. We're looking at what we call professional learning communities, where we got all the ENL teachers together that were part of this pilot in district-based PLCs in person with the vendor, with the district leaders, and those have been targeted and differentiated. So we're looking at attendance, we're looking at surveys, we're looking, of course, at teacher feedback. And I mentioned a little bit of that earlier. We're going to be looking at family engagement as well through surveys and some potential focus groups as well. And then, of course, we're going to be looking at the outcomes. So that's to be determined, right? Because we're going to be looking at NISISLAT when that comes in. That's the ELP measure that Carolina had mentioned at the beginning. We're going to be looking at ELA proficiency increases. We're going to be looking at decrease of numbers of L's scoring at or below the 20th percentile on the screeners. And, over the long haul, really looking to see are we reducing time towards exiting L status? So all of these measures are the kinds of data that we are collecting and in the process of reviewing as we move forward. I wanted to show you some of the initial data that we've collected. So we did a pre-survey before teachers began implementing the curriculum, before they really knew much about it. We surveyed them, and one of the questions we asked was, prior to this pilot curriculum, what were you using for standalone ENL? And the data we received really confirmed that why that we touched on. And, again, historically, standalone ENL has not had a set of standardized materials. Almost 50% of the teachers said they were using some type of foundational literacy program, such as Foundations or Phonics for Reading or Heggerty. And just to note that those are not programs written for English language development. They are not written for English language learners. Those are literacy programs written for monolingual children primarily. And so I think that really highlights the need to have a robust, rich set of materials that teachers can draw upon for standalone ENL. And I just want to say that, like, having been in many of these sessions throughout this year, talking to teachers, I was just at a district yesterday and hearing from 20-year veteran teachers, 30-year veteran teachers saying, it is so great to have something. Like, I have never had something, and this is amazing. And that's been consistent, and this is why. Other voices from the field I wanted to uplift, some of the teacher feedback is some of the themes are just like having access to rigorous content. They're seeing students shifting from giving one-word answers to speaking and writing in complete academic sentences. They're using explicit language scaffolds and really seeing what that means to give students access to both content and rigor in a lesson. They're seeing transferring of skills. So what's been really exciting is seeing students carry skills into the core classroom. Their classroom teacher has noticed them using the same language routines and strategies on their own. That's amazing. And so, again, a big theme that we're hearing from teacher feedback is they're seeing confidence, student confidence building from being able to engage with this rich set of materials and instruction. And for teachers themselves, again, it's been a big win for them And it's been consistent. I was, initially I was like, maybe we'll get some like, a lot of pushback and like, why am I using this stuff? I have my own stuff. We didn't get much of that at all. Like, they really appreciate getting something. Before I was making my own materials and working independently. Now I'm able to work more closely alongside, teachers in the district with shared materials and a clear scope and sequence. And that is exactly why we're doing this. That's why we've been doing New York City Reads. It's why we're doing New York City Solves. And that's why we're doing this pilot. So what's next? Like you skipped the nice pictures that we had, Carolina. So we're going to focus on the curriculum and strategies that demonstrate the strongest alignment and outcomes for standalone E&L. And you can see we're already pivoting to the program that we've seen evidence of already, and we feel really good about that. We're expanding that approach to additional districts and schools in the next school year. We want to move this to citywide as much as we can, and we would love your advocacy in support of that. We're going to continue to learn from implementation. We're going to continue to listen to teachers. We're going to continue to gather information from families, and we're going to build capacity for our district and school-based staff to be able to learn from what good English language development instruction should look like. So all of that said, I gave you a lot of information. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Open it up for questions. So any questions? We've got 24 minutes left. So questions? Maggie, go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask if you guys could break down a little bit the process for specifically ELL students with IEPs to be placed in the appropriate, like if they're category of like emergent Ls or current ELLs, like what does that process look like for that sort of for that to be determined? What tools do you guys use for that? Yep.
Thank you for your question, Maggie. So Ls with IEPs take the annual assessment. So the NICETEL is the identification test. Based on the NICETEL, that's how we determine whether they're at an entering, emerging, transitioning, expanding level, or commanding. They could become never else. And then once they are identified as an English language learner, they take the NICESLAT every year. Accommodations are provided in the NICESLAT. And then that's how we determine their proficiency level for the following year. And that's what informs the amount of standalone ENL that they get and integrated ENL that they get.
Heather, you had a question? Time, please. One at a time.
Okay, so I'll just start with my first one. So when you're at the Citywide Council for Special Education, so I just want to make sure that I just address like the accessibility of the curriculums for students who are English language learners or multilingual learners who also have disabilities and IEPs. I know the state doesn't really let you classify them as both. They're like one or the other, and so I don't really know much about the curriculum that was chosen, but I know like HMH, my son cannot access that curriculum, despite all of the testing and all of the this and all of the that. But picking the curriculum, it's not an accessible platform for some students. And so it's my concern, like, can they print out these things? Do they have to use the drag and drop? Are paper resources available for students who may not be able to access everything online? So that's my question, is because I feel like we pick these great curriculums and then we think about how we're going to get access to students with disabilities as an afterthought. And it's really, really hard to retroactively make things accessible.
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
take.
so
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Mark, I can jump in and then you can follow.
Yeah.
So that's really important to us. And what I want to highlight is that no curriculum is the perfect solution for all students. We all know that. So the key is the teacher and how the teacher is appropriately scaffolding, differentiating, and providing the IEP recommended supports, right? And so it is the responsibility of all teachers to understand who the students are in front of them, what their language proficiency is, what if they have an IEP, what that IEP has recommended, and to be able to provide the necessary, again, scaffolds, supports, differentiation. So with that said, when we reviewed curriculum, and HMH is not one we're moving forward with, right? We're moving with Cengage. The features that the company has been able to highlight for us are ones that have been created based on feedback from the field, working with students with IEPs. Again, it may not be perfect now. What we have found that this vendor is very committed to is working with us on ensuring that they are responsive to our needs. And that's where we're collecting information from the teachers. And so we certainly do have Ls with IEPs as part of the pilot because every school has English language learners and English language with IEPs. And so that's part of the feedback that we're collecting as we complete the pilot and we enter a year of expansion, right? So that we can make sure that to the degree possible, there are as many tools within the curriculum and that we're able to provide that guidance to teachers who are working with students with IEPs.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, I just wanted to note too that there are print materials included. So there's a teacher workbook, student workbook. They can work primarily from those sets of print materials. I just wanted you to see the digital side of it because that does have like a lot of features for accessibility specifically, but they can navigate between the print material and the digital material as well in order to serve their students as best they can. One other thing to highlight, I don't think I'd forgot to mention this with Nat Geo, is they also have songs as part of the work. They have slides. So there's a lot of visual and auditory engagement as well as the print materials too. I want to highlight a question in the chat. The question was from Sarah. What's the timeline for expanding the pilot to additional districts? Brenda, did you want to tackle that one?
Sure. The plan for next school year is to expand fully to the 8 pilot districts. So the HMH, the ones that we're piloting HMH, they're going to begin to work with Cengage, and we've worked with the superintendents to determine which schools within those districts. And then the 4 that we're doing Cengage are going to continue beyond the 10 pilot schools to their full districts. And then years on out, we plan to continue to expand beyond those districts. And this is specific to K to 5 right now.
So a little concerned about the company we're using in Cengage. I don't care about any of the companies, but Cengage is obviously a problem child. They're Apollo, they're KKR. You know, they've got a lot of private equity. They are trying to spin them off this year with a lot of debt going IPO later on this year. So we're getting a good deal now. They need to work with us now because they need us. They need our logo. They need our story to be able to tell investors when they go IPO. What type of financial guarantees do we have 3-5 years down the road that our prices are not going to get jacked up? Because that's what always happens when an IPO goes, when they're carrying heavy debt loads. We're going to see our prices up unless we've got some type of guarantee with them. So do we have a guarantee or do we have a plan long-term to bring this in-house and do it in-house? What's the story look like? Because the story is going to be, if we don't have a guarantee, that we are going to get hosed financially. That happens all the time.
So I just want to hop in to say OML has been doing an incredible amount of due diligence, even though they are the program office, on working with the curriculum vendors. And in the past, they have done extensive work to write accessible materials in languages other than English, which is more above and beyond anything we could ever ask a program office to do. And so we definitely hear your concerns, Mark, about the actual company. I don't want to put OML in the position of needing to in any way respond to efficacy of future contracts. But Brenda, I know that you do work with them closely. Do you feel comfortable talking about how those conversations have sounded in terms of long-term?
I don't, not directly to your question, that's beyond, but we work very closely with the core curriculum office, and the core curriculum office is the one that deals very directly with the company, and they establish memorandums of understanding, and that is something that they're clearly establishing with Cengage to be able to provide a package to schools that will include professional learning. So that process is being followed just like it has for all of the New York City Reads curriculum, that I can say.
Yeah, and look, I know it's a big theme. We're talking IPOs and all that. It's not your wheelhouse most likely, and I appreciate that. I just want to caution that it's just some caution.
Just one note on that is that
Sorry,
the MOU is multi-year, so that's part of the agreement that we negotiate with any vendor.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. Joanne, next.
Just want to piggyback off what Mark was just discussing with the price. My question is, down the line, is this after the pilot program, is this going to be a fee that the school is going to have to incur in a budget? Because when it was a big shift and they went from Orton-Gillingham and they had to do HMH and they had to come with one reading curriculum, and a lot of schools was complaining that we just pay for this reading curriculum, now we have to switch to this. Is this going to be like, hey, we have to add another one just for the L's? Like, is it going to be like, you know what I'm saying? Is it going to be like something prorated, or it's going to be like a discounted? Because I know at one point they were saying for the mom and pops daycare centers, they was going to give a discount like for the reading program for the pre-Ks and the kindergartens when they came into the DOE school, so they'll be on board. Like, is that going to be like similar, the same for the L's coming in as well? You know what I'm saying? So that everybody's going to be on the same page, incurring the price after the pilot program is over. We didn't get that far yet.
There's certain, thank you for the question. So there is funding in the Fair Student Funding formula that is attached to English language learners. And that funding is very specific, right? Like based on the number of L's each school has. And that's what schools use to inform the materials that they purchase, the teachers that they hire to serve the kids. And so that's annual. Schools receive something called NISTL funding. It's textbook funding. That funding is what, should I stop? Yeah, that funding is what goes to core curriculum. And again, ENL is a requirement, right? And so this is becoming part of the core curriculum as a requirement. Just like the New York City Reads curriculum, the math curriculum, so on and so forth.
But it's going to be like a requirement, something. So it's going to be in like the data count. So when they do the count, this is going to be in the count of, so if they have 20 L's, the school's going to have 20, and they count for the funding to get the supplies. This is an example like that.
And just remember, prior to this, there was no curriculum, right? So prior to doing this, if our child walked into the building and was not speaking English, the teachers were just using their best work to create their own materials. And so this creates a standardization of what does it mean to help students learn English. And we know that, right, once students do get that proficiency in the second language, their academic experience overall skyrockets.
Thank you. Maggie, you're next. And then Heather, you'll be after.
I'm gonna put a lot of questions in the chat. I would like a response because there's not enough time for all of them. We did send previous questions before, just regarding about the pilot, how families were notified, how they were involved, and if they were provided a way to opt out, like if they were informed in their native language and if they received the data, the final results of the pilot. And also if like how is the student data collected and stored? Because like through Spark, there's a way for through that platform to utilize the what do you call it? The assessments and the progress and stuff. So all of that is data. So how is that tracked? The process tracked. How is that data stored? And how is it safeguarded? If you break down also Cengage and Spark, how is it not AI? I think when I researched the Spark, it does say it's AI. So are you guys not utilizing that? Like, is there a difference in that? I'm really concerned about the student data security. And I'm really concerned about how some of these companies and platforms are utilizing and profiting off our student data without safeguarding it and without consent from the families.
Thank you, Maggie, for those questions. And I'm trying to speak loud because I understand there's a challenge with the mic. So hopefully this is helping. I do want to share that Spark has been IRMA certified and IRMA cleared. So it has met the New York City Public Schools student privacy requirements. However, it has cleared the process. And Maggie, we're going to get responses to your questions. So yes, we have them, and we'll be sending them back to you for you and to share back with the council as well.
But just to be clear, in response to the family engagement piece, I mean, OML did extensive family engagement in families' home languages. And I do want to commend and applaud you. I thought the outreach, and certainly we could share that information on the family-facing website, I thought was really great. If folks don't have the link to that, we should go ahead and do that. But I do think that there's a lot to be said about the level of care you all put into that outreach. And then, in terms of the data AI policies and things like that, I'm just going to ask that the CCSE, these folks are the pedagogues and content experts that are here to answer your pedagogical and content questions. I definitely, if we want to get into the AI contracting conversation, we should do that offline.
Yeah, just in terms of the AI, I'm not aware of any AI aspect of Natgeo. The Spark platform is simply the curriculum materials. So it has the teacher slides, it has the videos, it has the songs. There is a Spark AI, which maybe is as a separate thing. It has, to my knowledge, no relation to what we're using.
Thank you. Heather, you got the next question? We are down to 7 minutes left in this discussion. Thank you.
Can I just do my two questions? And if you can't get to both of them, I'll put them in the chat. My first one is I noticed that a lot of the measurements of success are based on the state tests. And the state tests aren't always the most accurate assessment of kids' knowledge and their competency with curriculum. It definitely does not demonstrate my kids' knowledge at all. And so I always very leery when that is the tool that's being used to measure outcomes. Are there other assessments that you are using to judge the efficacy of the curriculum?
Yeah, if we can go back to that slide, the state assessments that we were referring to are the lagging indicators. And obviously those are like for accountability from the state, like we are beholden to those. So those are important outcomes-based indicators. However, that is not at all the only thing that we're collecting. So there's quite a constellation of um, data that we are collecting currently, which I shared with you previously, which included the teacher responses. And so we're talking to teachers, we are talking to the district leaders who have been the main points of coordination for all of this work within their districts and behalf of their schools. Those are the primary and key sources of the best information we're getting at this moment. And we're also part of these PLCs with the vendors. So we're in the sessions, listening to the content, supporting the creation of the content and design of it. There's quite a lot of information that's being collected, including visiting the pilot schools themselves. So just want to note, like, totally hear you about those being limited. Those are just things that we're looking at in terms of outcomes and lagging indicators. The leading indicators are the ones that I've been primarily talking about through the presentation.
Okay.
I think just to build on that, student specific. So an annual measure of English proficiency is a requirement federally, and the state has, we have the nicest lot right now. And so that is how we are, by CR Part 154, required to determine how kids are served. With that said, all of this curricula has built-in progress monitoring. And so that is a continuous part of the teaching and learning that happens with, in the classroom. And so that certainly is a part of being able for a teacher to gauge what progress is being made. The other thing I want to say is the NYSESLAT, what is different from the NYSESLAT than the ELA and math that you saw is that the NYSESLAT is very specifically designed to measure English, right? So we might see that our kids are lagging in ELA. It makes sense. They're not yet English proficient. ELA is an English test. NYSESLAT is truly a measure of where they are in speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And as they increase, what we see is that their ELA and math scores increase naturally. So, a child who's at an expanding level of English is going to start to do better on the ELA. But certainly, because the curriculum has all four modalities built into it, the teacher is able to progress monitor. If a child, for example, the speaking is lagging, right? Then they can really focus on that modality. And then, when it is measured as required by state and federal law in the NYSESLAT, we can have a sense of where a child is going to be.
Okay. And then we may not get to this last question because we're running out of time, but I wanted to know where the bridge is between the family and the students, because as we know, their English language learning students are coming from families that often don't speak English as well, and have some probably poor literacy skills. And so where is the support to the families happening to, support the students?
Yeah, so I think that that's something that we really genuinely are excited about with this piece, is that we've been really authentically been able to create a family piece that supports the ELD piece, because that piece is so important. So with that said, we have partnered with our family and community engagement office, and all of the families were provided with the science of reading training. And now we're starting a series that's specific to English language development. So the first session is going to break down what ENL is. Like, what is ENL? What can you expect? What can your children, what did they experience? And we will provide it interpretation for the sessions. We have 100 people signed up right now for our first session. Our second session is going to be breaking down English language development. Like, what should you be expecting from your school every year? Parents of English language learners should have an additional meeting to all the mandated meetings with their ENL teacher or their bilingual teacher to sit down and discuss the progress that the child has made annually, so the parent is aware, right? The child was at an entering level this year. I expect it to be emerging. Where are they? Have they lagged? If they're still at an entering level, why are they? So that they can unpack that. And so our workshops are really giving them an advocacy arm to know what their rights are and to be able to ensure that they are being provided with that information at the school level. But it's not just like a central workshop. We are collaborating with the district and the parent coordinators to ensure that they're like the that we're using them the way the system is designed, that this information is coming through them, and that they become like the person that they can see every day at the school that has that information. And so we're really seeing this as a model as we're trying to do other curricular rollouts like bilingual education, that we consistently want to be able to have a family piece.
Thank you very much. We are at time. So apologies. We'll follow up in the chat and then email communications thereafter. Want to really thank Dial, both the Office of Multilanguage Learner team, the Office of Special Education teams for this presentation and all you're doing to support our students and families. It is deeply appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will pause a few seconds and then move on to the next part of our agenda. Thank you again, Dial team. So we have public comment. So if you have any public comment, please raise your virtual hand or real hand. Any public comment? Okay, there's no public comment, so we will, is there a motion to adjourn the calendar meeting and we'll move to the business? Is there a motion to adjourn? There's nothing. Interpretation, is there any public comment? I don't see anything.
There's no comments in the Spanish line.
No comments on the Mandarin line. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the calendar meeting and then move to the business? Motion to adjourn calendar?
I make a motion that we adjourn the calendar meeting.
Okay, we got two. So thank you, both of you. And is there, I'll assume want to use a second then, since you're both motioning?
Second that.
There we go. All in favor of adjourning the calendar meeting?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, abstain? All right, we are adjourned from the calendar. Let's start up the business meeting. So Rose, can we do quick roll call on business meeting, please?
Hello, yes. I'm Dr. Sinai.
Here.
Cindy,
Yeah.
Joan,
Present.
Heather,
I'm here.
Mark, Ram,
Present.
Maggie,
Here.
Susie,
Present.
Irie,
Present.
Jonah,
Present.
Kim.
Here. I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our February 12th meeting. So Rose has provided the meeting minutes. We had everyone present with the exception of one virtual and one excused absence due to job, which under Chancellor's Regulations Chancellor's Regs D140 is an excused absence per Chancellor's Regs. So if there are no changes or adjustments in the meeting minutes, we will accept them unless anyone's got any questions, comments. Well, let's see. Is there any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay, do we want to if we want to vote on, we can vote on it. We can do,
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from February.
okay, there's a motion to accept. Is there a second? Okay. Rose, do we want to do roll call or just? Yeah, we don't know. Okay, so all in favor of accepting the minutes as presented?
Yes.
Opposed? One abstention?
Abstain.
2 abstentions? Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, next up is the committee. Sorry. Maggie, Heather, were the abstentions? And there were no no's. The rest were yeses. Sorry.
I need to take a roll call.
Okay.
Dr. Sinai, we're taking roll call on the minutes.
Yes.
Cindy? Yes. Joan?
Yes.
Heather?
Abstain.
Mark?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Maggie?
Abstain.
Susie? Yes. Irene?
Yes.
Okay, Heather?
7, right? Yep. Okay, thank you. Next up is committee updates. So first up, we have the annual report committee. Is there any update on annual report?
I don't have updates. I know that we need to put something together. So we do need to put a meeting in the calendar. I know that a lot of folks are kind of like spring break checkout, but if anybody is willing to meet with me over spring break to start working or just come up with a plan and an outline, maybe we can schedule some time there on one of the evenings. But I do know that we need to get at least a plan started. I do also ask that everybody be prepared to contribute something to the annual report. And we can have a little bit more, once we meet to get an outline and kind of a skeleton of what we want to present, it'll be a little bit easier for folks to volunteer for what they want to do. So yeah, we just need the initial meeting to brainstorm and come up with the plan. And then I think from there, it'll come together pretty quickly.
Okay, for that meeting, we do need to get it on the calendar and give public notice.
Yeah.
So we still have to give the 72 hours minimum public notice. And that's still going to crunch us though for interpretation if we do it only 72 hours in
Yeah.
advance. Just heads up.
I know.
Okay.
I don't have the brain capacity to set up a date right now. Sorry.
All good. No, I appreciate that, Heather. Thank you. All right, next up is the busing and transportation committee.
Hi, yes. So this is Ron, and I'm going to brief a little bit about the busing company. We still gathering the data from our parents. We are trying to promote our survey about the busing issue they may face during the service, and trying how to get all the information and publish, but we're still in the middle of preparing. And then the other thing is me and Heather and the busing committee, we still gathering all the contact information from different senator or the assembly member from state level or the city level. We try to reach out to them and send out our busing in our busing our busing priority for them and try to get their support in the city level and the state level. And also we are trying to send out our busing in letter priority to the governor and try to ask her to sign if the busing in law was passed on the state level. And this is much about what happened so far.
Thank you, Ron. And thank you, Heather. Just as an FYI, the next date for the Bus and Transportation Committee is Monday, April 13th, 7 p.m. So that's their next scheduled committee meeting. Thank you. All right, next up, we have the Bylaws Committee. Bylaws.
The thing with the bylaws committee right now, I was gonna suggest, but, Francesca's not feeling well. As y'all can see, everything is always a meeting and it's kind of hard to try to schedule something. And I know outside of this, everyone has other meetings and it's kind of hard. And we already the term is almost over and then we'll know July will be right here. So I was going to suggest if the committee don't have an issue, if we table this and we just revise and just work on the bylaws in July, and we'll put it, because right now to add another date is going to be kind of hard, because right now y'all trying to find an annual report, you know what I'm saying, meeting date right now for another meeting is going to be crunch time, you know, to try to get everybody on together. And the secretary, we need the recording secretary as well on the meeting. So that's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Next committee is the Communications and Outreach Committee. Communication and Outreach.
Yeah, so we met this month. We talked about, we got some feedback. Joanne and I got some feedback from the community. We didn't have much turnout, but we got some good ideas this time around. We're going to, we're trying to figure some things out with the website. Heather has been graciously helping us with tweaking all of that and to do the outreach. So we got some ideas on how to do the outreach with either the community education councils and with PTA reps and things like that. So we're going to be working on that. And do you want to talk about virtual talk for this month? Yeah, so virtual talk is not happening this month, right, Joanne? Okay.
Due to the spring break.
Due to the spring break. So we'll see you next month. And then Rose will have our dates up announced. Okay.
The next meeting will be May 5th.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up is the Health and Wellness Committee. Health and Wellness.
Yes, okay, health and wellness. It was off to an amazing start. This is actually our second meeting. Unfortunately, due to the snowstorm, Mother Nature had other plans, and because the children, families are snowed in and there was a snow day for school, we did have to go ahead and cancel that meeting. But our meeting that took place this month was a great success. We had quite a large number of families, and those families mainly spoke Mandarin. And I have to really truly give credit to one of our newest members here, Cindy, who's at the table. We didn't really welcome her, but it's such a pleasure to have you. And you've jumped in as if you've been here from day one with all of us, the commitment, the level to be here physically and to attend so many of the committee meetings. It really is stellar just to show that energy and that interest and bringing in so many different contacts and families from the outside. So I truly commend you for that. And I thank you for that and bringing in all of these fresh ideas. And because of that interaction that we've been having successfully in the Health and Wellness Committee, and Joanne as well can attest, we've been getting great feedback from the families and what they would like to see happening. So we're going to be introducing two initiatives. And one is going to be focusing on fitness And we will be having an event that's going to be planned, of course, with the upcoming warmer temperatures that are coming ahead. And we'll be able to create special themes, knowing that we're going to have Mother's Day, Father's Day. We're going to do some special things, bringing the families together. And the families actually expressed a greater interest of not just working out and focusing on improving mental health and wellness as parents and caregivers. They want to involve the children. And no one actually really trusts their children being watched by other people. They like the idea, and I think it's kind of the premise of this whole health and wellness committee is bringing the involvement of the children. Children, we are the role models of the kids, and we also have to work on eating healthy, sleeping, and doing all of the things that our children are watching. Even if the children are nonverbal, they're picking up on our energy. And it's so important that we really work on ourselves so they could be the best that they could be. So it's going to be offline, online, and we're going to really work on making things happen. So I thank you again, Cindy, welcome. And thank you so much for the input.
All right.
Just wanna,
Yes, Joanne, go ahead.
hi, I just want to add one more thing. Tonight was the second wellness meeting for the wellness citywide committee that we're representing the council for. And they are going to be they're talking about initiative of getting fit and doing more activities now that the weather is changing. And I spoke to Susie just as she was on the train and going under. We had spoke briefly about possibly starting an initiative of steps, because we had just finished talking about it at our last wellness, of maybe doing a steps challenge that we may be trying to get together late April, early May. We're going to try to get the information together. The parents doing a step challenge. And so behold, that was something that Sanchez and them on the wellness committee was talking about, how to get fit and get more steps in outside of PA, physical education. So they said they're gonna send us some links that we'll be able to share with our community, with our schools and different things, and outside. They said we'll be able to share that with our community, different fitness things and stuff like that. They said we'll be able to share. So once I get it, I will share it with you guys, and y'all be able to share it outside of CCSE as well. So once I get it, I'll share it with you guys.
All right, Maggie's got a question. Go ahead, Maggie.
And did I hear you correctly? You guys are going to represent the council?
Yeah, Rose sent that email out back in January. We got that email back in January, and we gave our names, and I gave our names, and this is the second meeting that we have attended. So I attended last month, and I get feedback last month when I came in. I spoke on it last month at this meeting here. And tonight when I came in, I was logging off on that meeting because I had come in, because apparently their meetings correspond with our meetings here. So Susie was the lead, but by her being on the train, she can't hear the meeting. So while I'm driving in, I listen as long as I can, and then I give feedback to you guys, what they tell us, and then that's what I've been doing. So this is the second time I'm giving y'all the report. So they told us tonight that they was going to start sharing links that we can start sharing on the outside. So once I get the information, I'm going to start sharing with you guys to share. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, next we have the Legislative Committee, which I'm part of. We did meet last month. It was an oddball day, so we had literally no one show up except for one member who just had some questions. So we literally just chatted. But that being and it was an oddball day, and my apologies. I had a college class with my kid that ended this week, and it's actually tomorrow. It's the last day of it. And so I was not available for 2 Mondays, and so we put on an oddball day, and people aren't used to having it on a Wednesday, so we had no attendance other than me and one other person. So there was no actual meeting. We never started the meeting because there was no one there to have it. That being said, a couple of things. One, we do have some resolutions we're going to bring forth at the April meeting that we have, our next meeting that we have. And so our next meeting is April 20th with the legislative meeting. That is a Monday. It's unfortunate the first Monday happens to be part of the spring break, and so we'll have it on the third Monday. We'll bring a couple of resolutions forward at that one, and then presumably we'll bring those forth to the council for our next meeting after April 20th. In addition, the legislative breakfast, we have punted that until next school year. It makes sense from a bunch of reasons. One, we're going to need to redo the budget because we're going to have to spend some money if we're holding it here, or really find some people to do donations. So something to think about is if you know people who may be able to donate breakfast type foods, we need to start thinking about that for whenever the date time is, or we need to really reappropriate a very substantial amount of our budget that we currently have of the 25,000. We'll have to put a substantial amount towards holding the breakfast in here if we don't have donors to donate breakfast foods and drinks and all that stuff and decorations. Heather's got a question. Go ahead, Heather.
I was going to say there's a very community-minded, social justice-y kind of restaurant in my neighborhood. And I can talk to the owners there and see if there's anything that they can do. That could be a potential place where we could have it. Their food is really good and they're amazing. So whether they can do something within a budget that we have, or, I don't think they'd be able to donate the whole thing, but we might be able to work something out. So it's just something I'll look into it. I'll talk to them.
They have to be a DOE authorized vendor for us to be able to pay them, or we have to use our personal funds, like my personal money I get each month, to be able to do it if they're not an approved
I
DOE
don't know
vendor.
that
Just a
they
heads up.
are a DOE.
Okay. So then we would be able to use our personal funds, the 125 a month, if you do it later
Yeah,
in
no,
the.
I'm not
Ro-
about that, but
Rose to me.
yeah, we
Rose has got something, and
if
then
we can't do
Maggie.
it, we can't do it.
Yeah. Rose, please go ahead. If I said something in error, please correct me.
Sign up as a DOE vendor, and I can talk Heather. I can talk to you afterwards so we can get the right information to them, because they need to fill out a form and it's to be submitted to internally. It's going to take a while, so you're going to do this next year, correct? Next term?
Sometime after July, yes.
So if you have, I'll talk to you about the paperwork they need to fill out to become a DOE vendor.
I would like to make a quick motion to discuss the meeting, at least to have a date on the agenda. I would like to discuss for the legislative breakfast, because I feel like we keep pushing it off. We haven't done one. And yeah, I just make a motion to discuss if there's a second.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
My hesitation is that we are going,
Is there a second? We can't just.
you can't motion anyway, so somebody else would have to motion. I motion to discuss the legislative meeting breakfast.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Okay, if there's no second, then the motion's not accepted, so we'll move on. At our April 20th meeting, we can certainly discuss date options. So I welcome anyone and everyone to attend the April 20th Legislative Committee meeting. It's at 7 p.m. on Zoom, and we can certainly look then. Did you have something, Susie? Go ahead. But Susie, let me finish my report and then. Yes, let me finish up my report and then we can we can open up to discussion, any questions that anyone has about any of the committees. So again, at the 20th, the discussion will be on resolutions and the legislative breakfast. We need to figure out a date. We need to figure out a budget. But again, right now, I would anticipate it's going to cost around $10,000. We have a $25,000 budget. The math doesn't work because member reimbursement and $10,000 would basically mean there's nothing else for anything else. And that would be problematic. So and that's why I want to say that's why donations are going to be so critical to be able to do it, because we can't afford 10,000. It just doesn't work. But having talked to other councils, the in-kind contributions that they received and spending ended up being nearly that. Most of those councils got a lot of in-kind donations to cover it. And that's why they didn't have to spend $10,000. But we've got to really figure out a date, a location, presumably would be here, but we've got to figure out the donations, and then we need to figure out the programming. What is the story we're trying to tell? And again, but we need members to be able to be involved in helping with all that. So encourage you all to come on April 20th. All right, that's the end of it. So is there a motion to discuss any of the committees? Okay, but we need to have a motion to discuss. We're done with the committees.
Yeah, I have a question for Rose.
Okay.
Rose, do you know because we had vacancies in the beginning of the term, right? So do you know that extra, I mean, we should have some, we can't move them. Oh.
Okay. It's yeah, you can't do anything.
So then what do we have right now to work with between now and whenever the next term?
July 1.
I don't have. Okay, I'll touch base with that.
All right, if there's no motion to discuss, we'll move on to the next part of business. Okay, next part of business is the co-president's report. Maggie, would you like to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, so we were quickly, a very last minute introduced to Deputy Chancellor Flavia Puello Perdomo. And as you know, Cristina Melendez left her post as Deputy Chancellor. And during the meeting with the Chancellor, we asked the follow-up questions that the council brought up. And they said that they would follow up later. I don't know when, but we can ask again. The Chancellor made an emphasis on working diligently on high quality special education programs closer to the home of the students. And he also emphasized that they are looking at the compliance numbers across the city in terms of related services and things like that. So kind of like that was the question, that was the answer to the question that Heather posed. And so they are aware that there is a special education teacher shortage, but they're looking to see how they can make increases there. And just make significant changes as well. They want to ensure inclusivity, like a inclusivity system, and again, expanding more of those high quality programs closer to the student's home. So that's my report.
All right, my report. My report, so February 23rd, the Office of Special Education had their You're correct. Thank you, Heather. My apologies, everybody. February 23rd, Office of Special Education had their Special Education Advisory Council quarterly meeting. Primary focus was talking about the preliminary budget investments. They had their baseline of the 70 million in preschool special education funding was priority one. Priority two is another 105 million in additional funding for new related service contracts. Third priority was an additional 50 million in funding for D75 class expansion. So those were the three foci. You heard that at this week's budget hearing, which was right across from us out the window. So those were again the three key themes that were focused on Monday at the city council hearing this week. And so they gave us a little preview. They again talked about preschool special education and how that is going. They really talked about strengthening the CPSEs and the evaluation process. They've more than doubled the staff of the initial evaluators this year. So they are, personal commentary, doing some of the right things to fix many of the deficiencies that existed for decades. There's still more hiring going on, so they're in process, but at least they finally figured out that they don't have enough people when you've got a CPSC administrator averaging more than 350 cases at one time. The math don't work to be able to spend any quality time on any kid. And so they are doing the right things. They talked about See It pilot schools, which they've got in Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Manhattan. They got them in all, mostly in the Bronx. But every borough is represented. So See It pilot, which is good. They talk about their MTSS, which is a multi-tiered system of supports on literacy. Again, really trying to focus on literacy and quick commentary. Chancellor this week talked about, I'll call it the missing gap. It's where the kids were not K to 5. You were getting interventions for literacy. If you were in sixth grade on, you were basically told, oh, well, you're a lost case. Chancellor changed that this week with his direction, and kudos to this building for getting it finally. I know a lot of people have been working it for years, so let's be clear. It's not that it hasn't been wanted to happen in this building. We finally have an administration that actually cares about the middle and high schoolers who need the literacy, who need to be able to graduate with literacy. And so the chancellor did bring that up this week. He apparently brought it up again in Albany when he was up in Albany on Tuesday. And I am at time, and I apologize. But those are the key initiatives that were talked about at the advisory council. Okay. All right. Member updates. So who has an update for this month? Any member updates? Heather, go ahead.
Yeah, so my update is I attended the Second Queen's listening conversation tour, or whatever they called it, with the school chancellor. And it was a fun experience. It was at the new high school that's on Northern Boulevard, the brand new one. The school's really beautiful. And I had the pleasure of sitting at a table with all IEP parents. That may or may not have been a strategic initiative on myself and Jen Chase. And then our facilitator, because we love him and he loves us, was John Hammer. So John was at the table with us too, and we had a reporter from Chalkbeat that sat at our table, and organizer from Appleseed on the busing coalition was also at our table. And they give you the option to focus on three things to talk about: safety, academic rigor, and integration. And we chose to speak about integration, and really highlighted just the main thing is you can't integrate schools if most of our schools aren't even ADA accessible first, and you need to fund the fair student funding formula properly to allow for true integration of our students. We talked about language access. We talked about the fact that integration doesn't just end when they walk out our school buildings. That integration is also about community and living in the community, especially with a community schools model, and that not having programs near where people live is counteractive to true integration. And we talked about how our students should be able to meet the academic rigor and be challenged with rigorous academics, and not just expected just to pass. I think a lot of IEP students, they're just given the supports to make a C, and they're not given supports to actually reach their potential and to thrive. And that we need the supports in like AP classes and honors classes. They should have ICT in their supports in their foreign language classes that they need to graduate. And so these were all some of the things that we brought up. And how busing isn't fair. Busing came up for sure, and just a lack of at some schools there's a lack of respect for families of students who have disabilities, especially for parents that want to fight for their student to be in less restrictive environments and really have the option to thrive. So those were all things that came up, and yeah, so I just wanted to report back on that. So if you haven't gone to one and there's still ones in your district, go. Like go there. I think there's still Brooklyn one scheduled, Staten Island. They feed you. And yeah, the food was pretty decent. So so anyway, I'll end my update there.
Thank you, Heather. Any other member updates? Okay, Irene, go ahead, please.
Yes, so I did not attend any meeting event, but I want to bring up that I have some parents come to me regarding they have some miscommunication gap or misunderstanding of the IEP. Like when they try to request service or start a request a reevaluation with the IEP team, there was sorry. Hello, it's better? Okay, great. That's much more better. Shall I start from the beginning? Okay, so I did not attend any meeting or event, but I want to bring up that I do have parents come up to me regarding that they have facing some challenges on communicate with the IB team. For example, when they try to request service for their kids, or they try to request a reevaluation, they haven't been able to have a prompt response from team, or the team already did respond that they received the request, but they have been able to do in reevaluation like up to 2 or 3 months. So I feel like this may be something, a problem that we can ask for our DOE team to see if anything else that we can help with this IEP meeting communication.
So a couple things. I'll put in the email address a parent should email if they have a concern, the special education hotline they should certainly reach out to. The DOE by law has 60 days to do the evaluation once they receive written communication. And every communication that's done should be in writing. So if you have a phone call, always follow up with an email to the individual in the DOE saying, as we discussed in the meeting, and highlight the key things back. That puts a written record that makes sure that clock starts, that 60 days starts. If they don't do it within 60 days, they're in violation of federal law and state law. And that's where I would again get the Office of Special Education involved, and I will put that in the chat box. But they can also reach out to CCSE at ccsc@schools.nyc.gov. We can also assist.
Yes, that's very tricky because they do reply back within, or they do making action, they do take action within the 60 day. But I would say, due to language barrier, culture, knowledge, many of the parents doesn't even know where should they go to. Like If they know me, they can come to me, but they don't really know CCSE, they don't know CEC, they don't know the website. So that makes a big issue for them.
And you're right, it's tricky because there's always language gaps, cultural gaps, just knowledge gaps. Um, you know, Advocates for Children, very good site. We've had representatives at our meetings in the past, Include NYC, also a very good site. They both have language translation services within their organizations. And so if, I won't say speak every language, but they speak the core languages that are the core DOE translated languages. So I would encourage families to go to Include NYC or Advocates for Children. Those are both organizations that receive state funding to provide services for families when they have a dispute or problem with the school districts. And so that's another source of where they can go, and they definitely have language translation abilities.
Yes, that's a great source. But again, because like most of them, they don't speak English, language barrier. They don't even know that this organization exists outside. So is there some way that we can spread the word, spread the resource information to those family? Maybe there's some, maybe we can discuss this discuss this later to see.
Yeah, I mean, Heather was working on a project, what she called a Padlet, that may have something that could be a basis, a starting point. I think that's something we should discuss at a different time, but I think that's something that Heather's onto something that may help with what you're talking about. And she's done a lot of work on that, and so there may be something there that's a good synergy for what you're describing.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other member reports? Susie, go ahead.
Okay, yes, thank you. I actually wanted to, of course, apologize in terms of the legislative committee because I'm supposed to be a very active. Is this bad or should I talk up? Should I talk up? Okay, hold on. Okay. This is better. This is better. Oh, yeah, it amplifies the room. Okay, yes, this is going back to serving as a co-chair with Mark for the legislative committee. So I apologize because I've missed a few of those meetings. And of course, for full transparency, I actually want to make sure that it's being fulfilled to the fullest degree. So I wanted to find out if it was okay to pass it on to another member to be that co-chair, and that way I can really focus and hone in on developing everything to build up the health and wellness, if that's all right with you, Mark.
There's another volunteer, they can certainly volunteer to be on. It's not that you assign them, that we need a volunteer. So if there's someone who wants to co-chair, they can volunteer, but we can't appoint.
Okay, all right, okay, because that's what I wanted to make sure that it was official or written down that,
Yeah, so if you want to resign from being a co-chair, that's fine.
That's a strong word.
If you want to attend when you can attend, you attend when you can attend. That's fine. If someone wants to volunteer for any of the committees, they are welcome to volunteer
Okay.
as a member, because everyone should be a member of every committee that we have. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
And if there's an opportunity that they want to co-chair or chair a committee, they certainly should bring it forthwith in this meeting.
Well, listen,
or in
that's-
future meetings.
And that's why I was going to say, because I wouldn't leave you hanging, I would recommend even another member at the table. And I don't know if Joanne, if you'd have availability or, so that way I want to make sure we're whole. We're not, leaving in despair or anything like that. So I'm just putting it out there, not, pointing. But yes, that was it. And the other thing for member updates, because I really appreciated hearing about Heather and then of course the input with the IEPs, Irene. One of the things that I think is detrimental to a lot of families and they're not aware is OPWDD. And those services are really crucial. The services are not only helping families to attain services where they're having respite care and having that help and that assistance, that guidance with their child, but also self-direction. So that allows that family to attain more services and a budget for their child so they can start to improve on their social skills and have things like horseback riding, swimming lessons, and music therapy, and all of these things that really impact a child's growth and well-being and achieving those goals. So, and along with ABA services. So just wanted to pass that along.
Any other member reports for tonight? Ron, go ahead.
Yeah. So I attend some meetings, and yeah, what Irene and Susie just brought up is about the IEP meeting and the OPWDD. So I talked to a lot of parents recently, and it just happened. They talked to me about this. So some kid from 10 years old to 22 years old, and their parent, the autism kid, they never heard about OPWDD. It's a really sad story. So one of the reasons that I participate in this council, because when I have some question about special education, I reach out to the school, the parent coordinator, even to the principal, and they have no idea about the special education, and that's the problem. So maybe 2 weeks ago, we meet with the FACE, right? And we point out that we would like to let all the parent, all the kid with IEP service, they have the number, they have the contact, and they have to share with the CCSE. And we have to reach out to them and let them know we are representing the parents and we're acting on your best interest. Because the school have no idea, even though they want to help the parents. One time when I talked to some parent coordinator in the school, they thought about OPWDD is part of the IP service. So they have no idea because it's so complicated. I'm not going to blame on them because it's so complicated. I'm still learning about it, but it's just so complicated. I have no idea. Actually, I have no idea about the OPWDD. I just know about some concept about it, but honestly, I still have no idea about it. So even though as a member of CCSE, we have lack knowledge about some program or service about special education, so we can blame on the others, like the parents or the school or the parent coordinator, because they have no idea. They are not professional. But I think the CCSE can serve the base point to connect to all the parents. When they have some question, they can reach out to us. Yeah, we are representing the parents. And we can just let them know, okay, you can reach out to some organization or some, like Mark just mentioned that include MIC or the other organization or company to help them to out from the difficulty. Like when they have some dispute with the school in the IEP, some parent come to me and ask, "Oh, Ron, you know what? I'm really concerned about my kid IEP in the school because they are going to reevaluate my kid, and I really don't understand. So why you're afraid of reevaluating? It's not a threat. You have the right to talk to the school, but it's complicated. They just need someone. The simple way, just need to reach out CCSE. We have to push the DOE the face to let all the IEP parent or kid, they have to know CCSE assistant.
Thank you. Any other member comments? Member comments? Joanne? Oh, I'm sorry. Cindy?
A question regarding, they was talking about the IEP, but even the kids, they have OTPT speech, but in the school, that's not enough therapies. So family have to go outside to find a funder. The vendor is very challenging and difficult. It's not next to their home. Also, family have multiple kids, so they are not able to take care of this. So I'm just wondering if there's any solution for that.
You opened up the hornet's nest there. Heather, go ahead. You want to grab a mic and talk?
So with OPWDD coming up at the table now, and I'm totally agreement that it is a valuable resource that often gets overlooked and it doesn't always. Some schools are really good at helping families get connected and some are not. And I think some of the District 75 schools do a better job because a lot of the students in those schools qualify. But if your child's in a community school, you may not have that same experience. I know at my son's school we didn't. Most parents had no clue. So if you want me to help segue, since well, Joanne still has to give her report, but as part of, if we can table the OPWDD to the next agenda item about upcoming meeting suggestions, because I would like to add, seeing if they can come in, or maybe one or two of the care management organizations could come in and do a presentation about the services and how they can help families get connected might be helpful.
Perfect.
I just want to add something to you on that, Cindy. So I know it's not we doesn't find a real solution at the time right now, but for the parents, family that they are seeking for additional OP, SP, PT, maybe they could try to their insurance company to find those service, because most of the insurance company, most of the insurance plans, they do cover discount service.
There's also places like YAI and some of those places that have funding, even if you don't have OPWDD services yet, that have funding to provide respite and things like that. So maybe that's something in the Padlet, which I hope to present to you all. That's some of the resources that are in that Padlet as well.
Be with that as well too, if you need it. The YEI is perfect for evaluations, and that's something that is still required. But yeah, absolutely. There is a week, but it's perfect.
Great, thank you. Any other member comments, or otherwise our next topic is upcoming meetings suggestions, which we can certainly talk about what we were just talking about in more detail, but any other member reports? Joanne?
I have basically the last few meetings I have attended the Beyond Access with planning the transitioning stages from which IEP with Beyond Access with they had one back in March and then they had one back in February. It was a two-part series. I was part of that. I attended that two-part series training that they have did that risen. And also I attended that SEED program pilot presentation. Also, I will also attend to that as well. So just to get an idea what they was talking about with the presentation, how they're going to be doing the breakdown of that going into the schools and how that was going to look and how that pilot program was going to look. So that was something that I actually looked into and was a part of that as well. So that was, but the transition Beyond Access, if y'all want a little bit more information on that Beyond Access, I know Johanna, she dropped the link and I'm not sure if y'all got it, but it did break it down. And that's great information what they was talking about, because Dow actually has a program that I'm not sure how much of they have started talking about with OPDW, but they actually have a transitioning program they're actually putting in place from middle school, high school to post-secondary. They also have started to put into place. I'm not sure if anybody here has taken part of the Parent Connectors. Have anybody joined that series, been a part of that? Okay, so it's a great resource. They have been putting you into different avenues of different agencies and introducing you to what the different agencies do and stuff like that and how they deal with DOE. And then they also started bridging and talking about different programs that they are dealing with. And that's how they started introducing different programs. And they've been giving that program, they started at noon, and they've also been doing it at 6 p.m. And they also been letting parents do a replay on their own. So that's something you may want to look into.
Great. Thank you. Any other member reports?
Like a past Tuesday, I went to Francis Lewis High School. They hosting the resource fair. They invite all the school. I saw many school social worker to come to get more information. I think this is a very good resource for family, also for providers and professors.
Oh, all right. Any other member reports? All right, let's move on to the next part of business, which is the unfinished business. It's council meeting topics for April through June. And honestly, it really stretch into July and onward for the second half of our term. So Rose has in the packet a list of upcoming meeting suggestions. These were suggestions that we worked on, and I believe it was our September meeting. Might have been August. I apologize. I a little foggy brain on what the exact date was. But we had like 15 topics that we came up with that evening. We've gone through quite a few of them, but there's still obviously some more left. We've heard a couple times OPWDD, so we'll add that, I presume, to the list as possible topics. And I'll just give you a side. I was at a school event for my older son last night. We had OPWDD and Access VR both there doing tabling, along with a bunch of colleges and transition organizations. So, these places are willing to come out to schools if the school asks. I think we heard that people don't know, that schools don't know. So part of it, we'll hear at an upcoming meeting. When Heather, she talked about with the Padlet, but part of it's we got to figure out as a group, and that means each individual, we need to really come forth with what do you see as resources that are lacking and where are they out there, in terms of in your communities, in our community of 200 plus almost 300,000 students and their families, what information do they need they're not getting today from the DOE? And if you don't know where it is, that's fine. We as a collective do, right? As a collective, there's someone in this group who can figure out where it is or who it is or how we go about it. But we also need to know what the questions are, is where are families lacking in information? And then we can, as a group, source it and find a way to get it out there. But I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about certain things. I know a lot about other things, and I know nothing on certain things. And I'm sure we're all in that same boat. I mean, I think as a collective, we need to just come forward, and maybe that's one of the main topics, either April or May, is really sitting down for a good hour, half hour, whatever it is, and working through something like this, and trying to figure out where the gaps in knowledge are, and trying to find where the knowledge exists that we can steer people correctly. But that is the thought.
Hi.
Ron and then Heather. Ron. Okay. Mike.
Mine, it's not even to talk or a comment. So just to let people know where this Padlet is. So I used to work for HRA, and their Office of Disability Affairs. Every year they hold an ADA like event for mostly for employees. And last year they did a resource fair, and the year before that they did a basically like a webinar about special education and educational resources. And so I put this Padlet together for the DSS office, and it just has categories with a lot of different resources. I can't share that one. Obviously, we can't use that one. And I also, unfortunately, have lost access to the actual Padlet because it was with my old email address. But I do have the link to the Padlet, so I'm going to try and recreate it and see so we can have our own. And we can add what we need to. We can look at what maybe isn't necessary and we could take it out. But I will send the link for the DSS one out. I gave it to Maggie and Mark, but I'm going to send it to everybody. But you can't share it with anybody. It's not to go out. It's just for our council until we establish our own.
Please.
Yeah, so since Mark's talking about the gap, so I think we can also put the EI into the topic we are going to talk about, because a few weeks ago, maybe several months ago, I attended the meeting in IDD, and one of the speaker from the meeting, and she mentioned about that the DOE or the city should increase more resource in the EI program and try to help all those kids as soon as possible, and to get them because the earlier they get the service and or intervention, the better they can grow in the future. And in order to release or reduce the burden from the public school when they attend to the elementary school, right? And I think that price is reasonable and is logical, because we need to prevent it and we need to intervene as soon as possible. But so if we talk about the EI, the problem is, as Heather mentioned, that so most students from the D75, they mostly they know about the OPWDD, right? They know about the other program, because so unfortunately they may detect some issue at their very early age, but luckily they have their proper service at the early age. But the problem is, in the community school, when kids have ADHD or speech delay, those parents, they just looking for the answer from the school, that the school need to tell all the parents whether my kid need further evaluation. So they're waiting for the advice. They're waiting for the professional advice from the school, that whether my kid need to move forward for further evaluation or from where. But sadly, from the school perspective, they are not talking about medical. They are talking about academic, and that's the true difference. With a point from the school and the parents. The parents looking for the advice from the school, but the school thought that is medical and is not from the school perspective. They need to look for the medical advice from their doctor. But to the parents, we just know that my kid has special education and he may have something else. He or she may have speech delay, or I may need to move forward for more medical evaluation or advice. But to the school standpoint, they didn't really think in that way. They think it's medical, it's not our business. So if you are talking about the gap, I think the gap is the understanding between the school and the parents. Yeah, they think that's medical, not related to the school. The school only do the academic problem, but the parents said, my kid spend most of the time in the school, so you have to tell me what's wrong with my kid and what else evaluation I should go forward for it. And I think that's the gap. We need to talk to the DOE and let them know, to make it clear for the parents to know that they can rely on the school for the special education.
Okay, thank you. So we're adding on OPWDD, we're adding on EI, early intervention. Any other
It's one more thing. We really need to bring OPT back. This situation is, it impacts so many of our families. Yes, Heather.
So, as much as we love to have OPT at our meetings, I'm going to push back and say it's a waste of time because it never changes and we have them here every year and we have, and so not that it shouldn't be on the list, but I think that if we're going to put some topics in for meetings, our time would be better spent on some of these other topics because OPT is just going to come and say the same thing again they always say. And it's not going to, it's not going to make any real impact, unfortunately. Yeah. It'll just be beating a dead horse.
I am gonna half agree and half respectfully disagree. I don't think it's right to bring them back now. We just had them, what, 2 months ago? I think we need them back in the second half of our term, sometime after July. I do think we need them back because there are a lot of, we need to have them every year. There's a lot of initiatives that Kevin talked about and the other team members talked about that are starting, or supposed to start or should have already started, but we haven't heard anything about them yet. So I think we need to get an update at some point. I will respectfully disagree. I think, Heather, there is some movement. It's the glacier speed, and that's not acceptable for our kids and our families. But yeah, and we can certainly do a reach out for an update, but I think we do need it on the calendar sometime, if it's September, if it's December, if it's February next year. We need to think about it for the longer term. I personally would not feel comfortable bringing them back because I don't think you're going to get anything new out of them. Other than what Heather's saying, you can get our update. Hey, what you said all this stuff, what's the current status? Yeah.
Because we've got the new contract and I know that the CCSE, we should probably hold them accountable and make sure. So maybe we don't push it too far back on the back burner, because summer ACs and we just want to make sure the kids are safe. And there's a lack of communication, even with the New York City school bus app, but it goes on and on.
I think from the busing committee, one of the things we're working on is going to put a survey, just a permanent survey on the website for people to give feedback about what's going on with busing. But I think additionally, we could even put for the summer, a way for them to report to us when their child's bus doesn't have air conditioning. I think, and that can be just completely separate. I don't know if folks are open to that, but we can just make a Google form and they can click it if their child doesn't have busing or their bus doesn't have AC, so that we can jump on it right away.
But that would only be for people who have air conditioning on their IEP, right? We're not focused on general education.
We've been told that every special education bus has air conditioning.
We've heard it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that from the meeting.
So
Yes, I was so surprised.
yeah. So I don't think there's anything wrong. And there's also, can they legally not if it's not on the IEP? But I want to give our special education department and OPT credit that in this instance with air conditioning, just because the law says one thing doesn't make it right. And I think that they do try very hard to make sure that even if it's not on the IEP, a kid is not in a 120-degree bus. And I think it's helpful for us to still have that reported and so that we can escalate it right away, whether the kid has it on their IEP or not. It's just the right thing to do.
Agree on the right thing to do. No doubt about that. It's inhumane. It's insane. And you start off bad for the school day and you end really bad when it's even hotter at the end if there's no bus AC. It's a joke, but I just want to make sure I understood. Okay, thank you. Maggie, go ahead.
Sorry, Heather. So on that last point, because sometimes this happens where technically the AC is on, there is AC, but the kids don't feel it. Only like kind of like the driver feels it, like just to make that fix, if that could be included in what you're talking about.
It's the front of the bus, and usually the driver has a fan as well, and the children.
Any other meeting topics that are not listed here? Again, we have OPW, DD, and EI on here. Cindy, go ahead.
Not sure it's that appropriate. We have some kids like they have ADHD and they are not diagnosed with like a developmental disability, but some is like a mental health. They need more support, I think, and the school can like provide any more. Right. This is very challenging for parents to find a support. I have a parent come to me because her child to be do a transmission, and parent have no idea.
So on the list, I did put the PATH program. Not a lot of people know about the PATH program.
Not ADHD though, that's for trauma.
Yeah, but still, like it does have to do with mental health. So just I know it's may not cover everything, but well, emotional disabilities are disabilities, right? So we are, we encompass all of that.
So we,
And ADHD falls under other, they put it category as
inside.
other health impairment.
so
Was under, like I said, I have a degree in it, and I have a child that has ADHD, and I know what it is, and I've been dealing with that for over 10 years because my daughter falls in the percentile of a child that gets diagnosed before puberty. So I know what it is, but it's very it's in a it's in a different category because sometimes they confuse it with dyslexia in a sense, but it's something that's very isolated, and that's what something what Dr. Lopez was speaking of and what Miha was relating to. But it's neurodiversity is very it's in a different category. It's a totally different category, but it's a mental health. And a lot of people don't realize ADHD is mental health because it has a lot to do with the mind because of the medication they take is for the mental. It's for the head, it's a stimulant.
all right, we are at time of the 15 minutes. Do we want to extend time? Rose, go ahead there.
Just wanted to suggest picking something for April because we only have like 1.5 weeks to turn that around.
Yep, we're looking at related services is most likely going to be a topic for our April meeting.
I make a motion to add 5 minutes to this discussion.
There's a motion for 5. Motion second to add 5 minutes. All in favor of adding 5 minutes, please say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, 5 minutes.
Can I talk about the first one, the pathways to graduation, then, or the portrait of a graduate?
I'm I want to just clarify the mental health. So we have on number 7, the PATH program. Are we suggesting PATH program plus other mental health supports? Just kind of like that we're not just focused on the PATH, but other mental health supports which are available or will be available. Okay. Sorry, Heather, please go ahead. Pathways.
I find a lot of times that kids with ADHD, they can get some of their management needs met with a 504 plan.
That's the point of a
Right.
504 is
Yeah.
for health.
Yeah, and they don't always need an IEP. And so that's maybe 504 is just something we can talk about too.
Are you suggesting as part of the mental health or as a separate topic?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
Okay.
Those with ADHD do not have a 504. A lot of them have IEPs because a lot of them their minds are racing. So a lot of them sometimes their minds are cluttered. So it depends on their learning style and what their diagnosis is. And if it's just ADHD by itself, or if they hyper, or what it is, because sometimes some have autism and ADHD together. I did my capstone on that. So you can't tell me about that. That's my thing right there. Tell you that was my go-to.
And a student can have an IEP and a 504, you know, there's advantage, yes, you can. Yeah. Yeah, and there are certain legal advantages to each. They have very different things because they're in different parts of federal law. IEP ends when you leave the school system. 504 continues on. And so there are certainly those advantages of a 504 plan. But you know, they handle different things that certainly overlap in a lot of cases as we're hearing tonight. But you know, there's certainly, you know, so I think we need to think, is it something we want to have as a completely separate topic, or is that filling with mental health?
Should be separate because pathways, what are y'all talking about with the pathways to graduation and stuff like that?
Completely separate.
Yeah, that's different, yeah.
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 It's totally separate. But mental health awareness and neurodiversity, I think those things need to be separated, just like how we separate autism and that's like those things needs to be separated. It actually does, because the way when you fine tooth it and the way when you honestly fine tooth it and you really dig into it, you will actually see how it is, and you really dig into it, because then you start dealing with mental breakdown. You deal with meltdowns, clutterness, how they can just go from A to Z, how it's mistaken for bipolar, how it actually goes from one thing to the next. So that is really need to be by itself. So that's why I said that you really need to just keep it by itself, because that can be really mistaken for so many different things, and it's not. That's why I say that.
I always say they need a nest program for ADHD. It's, it'd be great if they had 8 classrooms like.
Trust me, I live with one, so I know. But I'm just saying, time management is so many things that's not their critique, but a lot of people don't know. Until you live and deal with one, you really don't know. And a lot of people does not understand. It takes a special type of parent to parent a child with ADHD, autism, and different things. And a lot of people really don't understand that. They really don't.
Yeah, I was, if I may, Mark, so I guess if everybody agrees for April, we're gonna go, as we sent out, yeah, with related services. That was brought up, I mean, by you at the very beginning, so we don't want to miss that. I would want to suggest for May or June to have assistive tech, because there's not a lot of awareness around there, and there's a lot of resistance in some school administrations to not have or to provide those assistive technology supports. And Mark, yeah, there's a person that I have in mind to kind of, yeah, Mark's Arabian, yeah, and he like it just opens a whole world for families and students themselves to kind of like be independent. And yeah, and I would again suggest the PATH program, however, the mental health and other mental health supports, however we want to put that. I was able to meet one of the program, I guess, coordinators, directors of the PATH program at one of the special education events. And they were wanting to come and just present and just say what the program offers. And yeah, and then the portrait of a graduate, like I think that's another pathways to graduation. Again, Include has every time they have like a good a webinar about the different pathways to graduation. And not a lot of parents know about that either. So
You're up for, you want to talk about number
Yeah,
one,
so
portrait
the
graduate?
portraits for graduate of a graduate. The reason I suggested this and to see if I think he's a Deputy Chancellor Chang. I don't know his title, but I know he was at the listening tour. We met him, but so this is different than the existing pathways. So because regents are no longer going to be required for graduation, they have to come up with graduation requirements for students that are choosing not to do regions. And they're calling it, their lingo for it is portrait of a graduate. What does a graduate look like in our school system now that regions won't be required? And that could mean, and Chang's background is working in outward bound schools, consortium schools, schools with project-based learning. And so I think he's a really great asset in that position because he definitely, his background comes from alternative portfolios for graduation and things like that. And I just want to make sure that it's a brand new, this is pretty, it's new. And I just want to make sure, invite him so we can talk about just I want to get ahead of the ball because that's probably mixing my metaphors because we just find so often that our students are an afterthought when they do all this planning. And so if we can get in the door right when it opens and make sure our voice is at the table, definitely very specific and strategic thought will be put into how students with IEPs fit into this graduate portrait. That was my thinking.
We're at the 5 minutes. Do we want to have a motion to extend in a little bit more? A motion to extend 5 minutes?
Yes.
I can second.
All right, there's a motion second. All in favor extending 5 more minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, 5 minutes and Susie, yeah.
I just had a question because I put in at the email that I responded to the email with some information regarding it, with the copy of the portrait, what the requirements is gonna look like, the graduation standards and stuff like that, and nobody said nothing. And they even posted on New York State Education, they just completed a pilot program, how it's gonna look. Because basically, he's being trained by the state chancellor. So if you really want to see how the program's gonna look, I think, like how Maggie said, we need to look at the chart, but honestly, that's not the chart we need to look at. We need to look at the state chart because they the ones gonna be really implementing what's gonna happen, and all it's gonna do is get trickled down. Cause that's basically how it's basically gonna get done. Cause Rosa and them just completed, and they put a video on it, the pilot program that they just completed. But I put the chart on there that they did in the graph and stuff and everything. And if you're in a CTE program and everything, basically those things are what they're going to complete. The only thing that's going to be changing is if you're going to be getting approval for a new CTE program, and the credits and different things is going to be changing. They've been telling me about. This is something I've been following for years because been one of those parents that is a strong believer of if your kid is not on grade level to take a citywide exam, why are you going to force them to take something? And my child never took a state exam. So how are you going to set them up to take a regional exam that they may not be prepared for? So I've been looking to see them get in the way with the regions exam for students that has been struggling. So I've been following this.
So couple things to jump in there on. So regions is still going to be required. Don't think it's completely going away. Federal law requires ELA, math, and at 3 times during the student's career, science to be done. Those are federal tests that will either be the state 3rd through 8th grade tests, or they will be AKA Regents for high schoolers. So they're still going to happen. They're still going to be required for students to take them. It will not be required to graduate. That's the one key difference. So Regents is still going to be around no matter what. The ways to graduate certainly are changing, and it'll change to 1 degree instead of the 3 different degrees that exist today, right? Today, you've got your advanced Regents, you've got your Regents, you've got your local diploma. It'll become one New York State degree. There'll be what they're calling certifications, which, we kind of call it like stickers on your diploma that certify certain things that you've excelled in. And the timing though is still a little fuzzy, right? They're talking the class of 2030 is supposed to be the first class. And then they said originally it was going to be 27, then it's 30. Now they're talking 28. We'll see what the final date is. It's nothing set in stone. Yeah. Yeah.
Tentative, my daughter's the graduating class of that. So yeah, she's in the CT program. So that's why I've been really watching.
Yeah. No, my kid was supposed to be the first graduating class as a 27 graduate, and that got punted. My guess is it's going to get punted again, and it's going to probably end up being the 29 or 2030 class because there's still a lot of things to be worked out. There's still a lot of implementation that they're talking high level at state level. State don't matter at the end. They're going to give guidelines, and schools have got to execute it, and districts got to execute it. And that's the process that they've been working on for 3+ years that we've been having these meetings, and they had town halls that were throughout the state. So it's not a new thing, as Joanne's been mentioning. I don't think they're going to have it for 28, honestly. I think it's good luck and not going to happen. Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
that's why it really doesn't make a difference because they know a lot of the schools does merge with the CTE program. So
And the consortium schools, which are not CTE, they have different ways they graduate students that are not based on Regents either. So I mean, the models exist in New York City, but they got to execute it, and that's a lot bigger. Heather, go ahead, please.
So off of this topic, I actually wanted related services. I know for April, I actually would like to suggest for May that, and I think we can combine these two, after school and summarizing, and not how to apply, not all of this, but giving parents what do I do when things aren't working right? Like, what if my kid is not getting what they're supposed to get on what do they call that plan? Their summer services plan. What if the bus is not taking, what if the program is telling me they can't support my kid? Like those types of things. And I think we should also have DOE here, but maybe also, or the summer program people here, but also maybe reach out to somebody at DYCD to talk about what their policies are and how they're holding their community-based organizations accountable for serving our students as well. For May or June, yeah.
So, I mean, they did just run the Beyond Access. Was it Monday, Tuesday? It was specific on summer programs. I won't say they answered everything you brought up, but they certainly talked about quite a bit of it in the Beyond Access this week. I don't know if it's on YouTube yet, but there was a lot of what you described in there. I think that's something
think
maybe we can bring up.
Sinai also, is that Sinai?
Yeah, I
Sinai
have my
has her
hand up.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Sinai.
Similar to Heather, I really want if we can get the people running Summer Risings to come in. Because one of the concerns in my district has been Summer Rising is like an extension of school, and the kids end up not wanting to go. And if you have DYCD, are the kids going on trips? And if they are going on trips, how are they supporting kids with special needs with that? And do they even have a calendar or plan on what they're going to be doing with the kids? I know that every school may be different in how they execute it, but is the plan to have the kids go on trips? Is the plan to have the kids do activities, enrichment activities? Or is it just going to be an extension of just the learning math, science, and the 5 core subjects? Because that's sort of what it was in the district schools that in District 5. That's what it was in a lot of the schools. And a lot of our families had complaints about that. And they didn't go on trips. They didn't go outside very often. So similar to what Heather said about just getting more details about the concerns. If kids do have IEPs and there's busing issues, have they thought about how they're going to fix those things? Or if you have a program who's saying that they cannot support the student, what is DOE recourse to then support the community-based organization so that the child can still participate in some sort of way? So those are questions I would like to know too. I know that they did have that meeting and they did give information, but that meeting did not share a lot about how they were supporting students with special needs, unless I missed that part of the meeting.
I did not hear that either. They certainly
Oh.
talked in detail about the programs, but to your point, yes, they did not get those pinpoint questions that you and Heather both called out fairly and accurately. I'm seeing, no, we're out of time, and I apologize. I've heard three things for May, June. I've heard summarizing / after school. I've heard mental health, and I've heard assistive technology. That's 3 topics, 2 months. We'll see what we can do. One of them may have to flop to July. I would think summarizing not want to flop into July because that's important for May or June. But we might have to have one of those 3 flop into July, August. I just want everyone to be seeing it as I am, or tell me if I'm wrong. Or if we want to add a special meeting, that's another option to get a 3rd topic in, is if there's something like that we want to do a special meeting between now and June to get in three topics. It's really 4 topics with related services as well. If we want to add a special meeting to try to get all the topics, and it's something to think about. We don't have to decide tonight, but something to think about. And that's what we'll do. We'll be talking. Maggie and I will reach out tomorrow to Office of Special Education, let them know the priorities and the dates or the months of the priorities, and see where we're at and who they can lasso when. But just a heads up, if there's an opportunity to do a special meeting so we can get a 4th in, that may be something we want to think about.
We do the summarizing. I really think it's important to invite somebody from DYCD to come.
Agree.
Got that in notes. Yep. Got that in notes. Thank you. Are we ready to move on, or do we want to extend time? All right. I'm not hearing. Go ahead. Sorry.
I actually wanted to make a motion to table the annual report since we kind of already covered that in the meeting, in the committee reports. So
there's a motion to table new business. Is there a second? Irene seconds. All in favor of tabling new business, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. All right, we're tabling new business. Kim, are you still on? I apologize. We got you up for CCHS. Hey, Kim.
Hi, how are you? I'm sorry, I'm just very discombobulated today. But yeah, hello. It's good to hear everyone and hear all the updates. Yeah, just in terms of CCHS, there's last month there were several resolutions. I think the one that was probably the most focused, which I'd be curious to hear what members of CCSE are thinking of this, is the next generation high school, next tech a generation high school, which will be solely focused on AI, that they're looking to cite at another school in Lower Manhattan. And how does the use of AI, sort of that intersection with students with disabilities, and how does that support our students or potentially harm our students? And what are some of the things that you're all thinking about, or what have you heard anything about from your parents?
Well, it's an interesting one, Kim. I mean, I'm taking 2 graduate courses on disability studies right now. There's a disability studies course from CUNY I'm taking, and then there's an assistive technology. The one who teaches the general disability study course, he actually teaches AI to to disabled people because of the benefit he is finding and those people are finding using AI to help them. Um, the assistive technology class, that professor is also active. And yeah, they're using it as well at college level at where he's involved, and they're finding benefits there. Personally, I think it's tricky because the data shows that cognitively, people who use AI have declines in cognitive skills. I think one positive thing in the guidelines that came out this week on AI is that it's not to be used by students on a day-to-day basis to do their work. I think that's critical because if they start using it for their day-to-day work, I won't say their IQs are going to decline, but their cognitive skills are going to decline. There's no doubt about it because that's data that the AI companies themselves have done. And there's multiple studies from AI companies showing that workers who have used AI, their cognitive ability to do stuff drops dramatically. That's just their own employees. There are studies that have shown that general users who use it, their cognitive abilities decline rapidly. And it's a rapid decline in their skills. And so if we institute that program, it better not be using AI. I know that it's called an AI school, but if you use AI day to day to do school work and school learning, they're going to be dumb kids at the end. And it's not because they're dumb kids, because we're training them in a way that's training them to not think cognitively and use the skills they have up here. Yeah. That's the great fear. If they're going to teach, hey, this is AI, great. This is how you're going to use it in life outside of school. Great, because that's the reality of what we're all going to be living when we're out of these buildings. But if they teach it, this is how you use AI to do your classwork or to think for you, then they should have every employee from this building mandated to have their kids go to that school. Because then they're going to see firsthand a decline in their own kids' cognitive abilities. And that scares me. So it depends on how they work it.
Yeah, my understanding is that the school is actually more focused on the algorithm development, sort of the development of the like LLMs and the mathematics behind a lot of that. So it's more mathematic based. Is kind of the focus of it. And I know that there's a lot of back and forth around whether or not and it's a screen school and it's another screen school, and citywide school. So it's just something that I just don't think are, there may be some real math whizzes, who are, where you do have people with disabilities, and students with disabilities that could potentially get into those schools. It's just a matter of if they're thinking of those, if it does get cited at the next PEP meeting. So I'm just curious what folks
And I'm
people's
also
thoughts
getting my
were.
master's degree in generative AI. So that's my other degree I'm working on right now. I'll tell you, I mean, there's a lot of math involved. The problem is the reality is generative AI doesn't get to where we're talking about AI. It just regurgitates using mathematical computations. It's not
I know.
AI.
I know.
And that's the problem is if we're trying to train kids how to do something that doesn't work properly, that's fine. But that's how we're teaching them a system that is cute but doesn't work for what their goal is they're trying to do, which is artificial intelligence.
Right.
So I would be very fearful that that's where we're trying to go is let's teach them a thing that's going to be outdated because there's chief scientists formerly at Google who basically told them you're doing it wrong, and OpenAI knows they're doing it wrong, Anthropic knows they're doing it wrong. They're all trying to move in a different direction than generative AI because generative AI don't work. And so if we're having a school based on what doesn't work, we've got a problem. But that's again the DOE, right? They're always behind the 8 ball. They're always behind, they're always slow, and they always screw things up. And that's where we're at. But
Yeah, no. I hear you, and I hope you'll come and I hope you'll be there to testify, to actually speak about that. So
I was going to say my concern too is that we talk about equity, and our schools already have a big equity problem, and AI and generative AI is learning from mass-produced data from people
Yeah.
that have lots of biases, and I don't think that they've figured out how to take some of those biases out. So that was my thing with one of the big issues I have with this whole AI policy is that you're putting a system that they clearly acknowledge in their guidelines is biased and inequitable, and putting it into schools that already have an equity problem.
hmm And it just reinforces that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was one of the main resolutions that I think there was just a lot of controversy around, and also just how quickly, just some protocols around how it was actually presented and put through, because it was, yeah. But that's a whole other issue. But I was very curious to understand where you all were. So thank you for your input and feedback. And it's very helpful for me to have that perspective. The other thing that I am also interested is that transition piece of it, um, around just the transitions between middle school to high school for IEP, for students with IEPs, and what those IEP meetings are like for those students, because they start to attend them when they turn a certain age. And also, how do they start to advocate for themselves? I know I brought this up before, but I don't know if, Joanna, if that's something that you were focusing in on, as well as that sort of transition piece, because I would love to get your input and thoughts around presenting a resolution, because I think it would be very appropriate for the CCHS. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Also, I'll connect
Um,
with you.
I wanted to add to that because I am in this process right now, currently. And one thing I did not know, and because I'm a parent in the know and I ask questions, is I emailed my school and was like, now that I know where he's going to high school, can somebody from their special education team come to be a part of the IEP team? And they say, oh yeah, we usually try to make that happen. I didn't even know that was a thing. And so just, letting other parents know that they can actually ask for the high school's special education support team to have somebody come to the middle school IEP for 8th grade. And I think that also helps that transition as well. And I don't know if that's happening everywhere, but it might be something to consider putting into a resolution.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great, it's when you're transitioning from middle school to high school, and then also when you're leaving high school and doing post-secondary, or if you're going into a trade or into the workforce. So those are like those different transition periods. I think that's good.
Yeah, so Heather, that's something new that they starting to implement with the map that they doing with the no, I'm just letting you know that's something new they starting to implement with the map they starting to do. And I think that's going to be part of the AES team that they putting together. That's the team that I was talking to you with, the pathways that they doing, that bridge for the post-secondary from middle school to high school, from high school to post-secondary, that they've been working with. That's that subcommittee from Dow that they've been working with that I was telling you about. So that's something new that they starting to work with, because you're starting to see now, well, I guess because of the shortage, you start to see like some of your child's related services. You may see them now at your child's high school, because they'll be like, oh, that's the area we cover now. We there 1 day a week or 2 days a week. You may see me there now, or you may see that. Cause that's what happened to me with my daughter's school too, as well, because of the shortage. But now that they did that mass hiring, you may not be so lucky, but you never know. You may see that. I don't know if you saw that. No.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it.
Yeah, but thank you all. I appreciate you and your time.
We enjoy you so much, Kim.
Tamika, any update from FACE? Heather, could you pass the mic to Tamika, please? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Don't have too much updates. I know a couple weeks back, this week and last month, FACE has been doing workshops with CEC members, just to give them some guidance around relationship building, conflict resolutions. I know some of you were not able to attend, so we do have of the recordings as well, if you would like those sent to you. Also, I did speak to Maggie and Mark about it is a training on the hybrid meetings. It's how to manage virtual portions of your monthly meeting. And it would be great that if some of you will be able to attend and just learn a little additional things. We have learning times that's going to be providing the training. They have done our platforms for our CEC elections, as well as Chancellor Town Halls and a couple of other family engagement workshops or events. So it would be great if you guys can attend that workshop and that training. It will be somewhere in mid-April. So as a council, you can decide what 2 dates will work for you as a council. And then we can move from there because we're collecting those dates with additional other councils. And then once we get the collective of dates from all the councils, then we'll send out an email letting you know what will be the date, and it will be done virtually. So that's my update. Thank you.
Thanks, Tamika. All right.
Really quickly, I just want to ask the council, those who are here, who may be interested in the workshop that she mentioned, just because it's like with our AA also is involved, so I just wanted to gauge like interest. So I can just send out some quick date proposals and see if you guys would like to join.
Okay. All right. That is the end of our meeting. So we will adjourn the meeting for tonight. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate all your support for our students and families. Have a wonderful night. And we will see you again on Thursday, April 16th, same time, same place. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.